Let's have a conversation about hostile landlords. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. Been counseling women and men who have experienced abuse as well as those who have been perpetrators of abuse and other violent crimes. This is a great question a commenter asked. He says, dude, what about a hostile landlord? I think hostile landlords are the worst. I wouldn't be surprised if there's like an uptick in hostility from landlords right about now, just for the simple fact of how the economy is going. People aren't paying their rent, things of that nature. Just like there was during COVID. I don't know where all of you live who watch me, but if you live in the United States, in many areas, there was, during COVID, when COVID had first hit, a lot of people, couldn't pay their rent, but they were getting like this COVID assistance, and there was like this mandate where, people could, they couldn't be evicted if they couldn't pay their rent during COVID. Oh my goodness, there were a lot of landlords who really, tried to take it out on people. They took it out on people who could pay their rent, of course, and, try to do unethical practices such as jacking up their rent for the people who did stay. Um, but things can also happen when you're unable to pay your rent. Um, you know, Landlords could, start following you around, becoming aggressive, doing weird things to your apartment, such as cutting the lights off, the power off, trying to charge you hidden fees, trying to come in there um, without your consent. And don't even get me started on maintenance men, because maintenance men are notorious for coming in apartments or things of that nature, just unannounced, without permission, and trying to say it's a slip up, those sorts of things. But now that the economy is what it is, you have people that are certainly trying to price gouge on apartments and houses, and when they're not getting a return on their investment, they're starting to get a little, aggressive with people. But they can also be aggressive. They can be aggressive about getting rent money and things of that nature, rent money, fees, all of that kind of stuff in general. And but be very lackluster when it's time to, do maintenance, or when you put in a request to get things done. And I've had my own share, and I'll, not to make it about me, but I'll share a little story too. I think one of the things that's becoming more common is mold, and I've told you guys, I've shared my story about dealing with mold a few years ago, but that was a slumlord situation where, of course, you call mold. You call the landlord and tell them, hey, there's mold. I think there's a leak, somewhere that's causing mold, and you got a slumlord. They don't want to do anything but paint over it or tell you to use vinegar or bleach when they know that they need to get in there and cut that drywall out, because it's all bad back there. And then, of course, they don't want to do it. They want to, try to slap a coat of paint and not do any repairs. And then you have to call the city. That's what I did anyway. That's like kicking the hornet's nest when you call the city, because then they're like angry, they're upset, they want you gone, that kind of stuff. And so they try to make it very hostile. They don't speak to you. They're very aggressive in their tone, that kind of good stuff. When really the error falls on them, but they're not willing to own up to it. It's like, no, you've become the problem because you've reported me, and now I've got the city down my neck trying to tell me that I'm a slumlord. So the list can go on, but there can certainly be, landlords, neighbors, maintenance people that could just be super sketchy and make it hard for you to want to come home. And if you got landlords that always want to, talk, or that always want to sort of insert themselves into your home or into your space, you could certainly have that. There's now, I've seen it, a few videos now where Airbnb hosts are doing that, where they're trying to insert themselves. They kicked out the bridal party, that kind of stuff. People, it's just starting to, there's a hostility in the climate here that I've been feeling when it comes to, just people trying to live. If it's not price gouging, then people certainly become hostile and aggressive. Yeah, so this is a trend that's been happening for quite some time, but because of what the economy is currently going through, I think we're all sort of we're seeing the other side of that. Thanks for bringing this up.